Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners from the CTS-233 course for the fall 2021 semester. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DevNet Associate course curriculum, or the DevASC course curriculum. And in this video tutorial, we're going to be taking another look at Linux command line basics and taking a look at a very, very important aspect of system maintenance, and that is the advanced package tool. Now, you may know the advanced package tool better by the name that you see or the abbreviation that you see on the command line, and that is apt-get. Or sometimes you'll see just apt, depending on whether you're using Debian or Ubuntu. So here's what you're going to learn about in this video. We're going to talk about the differences between apt-get upgrade and apt-get update. We're going to look at apt-get install. We're going to be installing the speedtest application. I'm also going to go over the difference between apt-get purge and apt-get remove. And I'm going to show you some ways that you can then build on this foundation and learn additional aspects of the advanced package tool. So to do all this, let's get to our Ubuntu virtual machine. And again, I'm simply running VMware Fusion on my iMac Pro. And this is just the most recent release of the Ubuntu virtual machine and Ubuntu operating system. So the first thing that we want to talk about is, what is the apt-get command all about? Well, remember, those man pages can be very, very helpful. So if I was to say man apt-get, it's going to give me the man page for the advanced package tool. And you can see here, we've got a bunch of different options that we can use. Now, we're not going to make this an exhaustive tutorial by any stretch of the imagination, but we're going to be covering some of the most popular and some of the more confusing options with apt-get. And so two of those options, I really like how they do this. You get them right up front, and that is update and upgrade. And this causes, again, a lot of confusion with learners where it's not clear. So does update like reinstall everything and update all my software packages? And what does upgrade do? Well, to be clear, update is simply going to, as it says, resynchronize the package index files from their sources. And the sources are basically, think of them as repositories that are out there on the internet that are accessible. And so when you say apt-get update, and I'm going to talk about the sudo component in just a second, but when you say apt-get update, what you're really doing is you're just synchronizing the list of packages that you have, and that list of packages is going to be updated from sources that you can find in etc apt sources.list. So let's step away from the man page here for just a second, and let's cat, or actually we'll say more, etc apt sources.list. Whoops, sorry about that. A little typo in there. There we go. And so here you can see that these are the sources that you see listed out here. Now you might be saying, well, what is that DEB? Well, you can think of it as Debian, and it actually is going to be referring to some binary files, but these are the repositories, right? And you can see we've got this HTTP path here with then some options that follow at the end for different sources that we're going to look at to determine, hey, do the installed packages, do they need to be updated, right? Do I need to update the list of packages, not update the software itself, or not to update the package from like version 5 to version 5.3, right? When we say apt-get update, we're coming out to these sources that are uncommented out. Remember, the pound sign at the beginning of a line starts a comment. So the lines that don't have the pound sign in front, these are the sources that we're going to be looking at in order to determine, do I need to update the list of packages? And then from that, I can make a determination as to whether or not I want to upgrade, or maybe I want to install something. And again, I'm going to show you the apt cache and how you would search for a specific application as well. And so again, I wanted to show you the sources file to kind of remove the mystery from, well, what does that mean? It looks at sources. What sources? Well, here are the sources. Now, we're going to circle back to this. Canonical is a huge maker of software. And so we're going to come back after we do some work, and I'm actually going to remove the comments here, and then we're going to run that apt-get update, and then we may be installing or upgrading some packages. So again, when I say man apt-get, and we're taking a look at that advanced package tool, update is just resynchronizing package index files from their sources. It's not upgrading to the newest version any of the software packages, right? And so let's take a look and see what this command looks like. Now, I'm going to force an error here, right? Because this is a good learning opportunity. This will be a good fortuitous failure. I'm going to say apt-get update, right? Because I just talked about this command. I said, hey, this is great. Let's get out there. Let's run apt-get update. And I'm going to hit enter. And you can see reading package list done. And we're getting what? Permission denied, permission denied, permission denied, right? And so this is where the sudo command comes into play. And again, if you're interested in learning about the sudo command, you can read about it here. And it basically, as it says, allows a regular Joe Blow user who's not the super user to run commands that would typically be run by the root user. And super user, again, super user and root user are kind of synonymous terms. And so that's what the sudo command allows me to do. And so let's see what the difference is when I say sudo apt-get update. And we hit enter. Now, it wants my password, which here is just ABCD1234. Again, not recommended as a password. And you can see we're beyond that permission denied error. And so I'm just updating the file lists that we have, right? And it went out to the different sources, the different repositories, the different sources, and it basically got a list. And now we have that refreshed list of available packages for the operating system, right? And so we can see that here. So now what I'm going to show you is, okay, well, that's great. But what if I wanted to, install a package? What if I'm looking, because we're not going to do the upgrade yet. So what if I'm curious, like speed test, right? Because if you have that on your iPhone, you hit the icon and it can test your internet connectivity. Well, let me go ahead and try to run speedtestdash CLI. And let's see what happens. Well, here it is right here. And, I love a lot of great error messages that you get. And, you think of it not so much as an error message as maybe an informational message, but the great message here, right? Take a look at that. Sudo apt install speedtestdash CLI. Well, if you didn't know the name, now we do know the name of the package. Now, there's a couple things we want to touch on here, right? So you can see where it just says apt and not apt-get. Again, Debian-based releases of Linux, like Ubuntu is sort of from that Debian family, you can use, in a lot of cases, just apt or apt-get. I've just always used apt-get, so that's what I use. Again, additional typing, however, it's just kind of habit. Now, it tells us how to do the install, right? And I really like how it does this. However, what if you didn't know the name, and what if you want to search on some things? Well, you can say apt-cache, oops, sorry, not apt0, apt-cache search and speed. And let's see what we get back here. Well, we got a whole bunch of stuff back here. Let's try to trim it down. And let's say speed test. And here it is right here. Command line interface for testing internet bandwidth, right? So you can search on terms. What if I was to say apt-cache search Python, right? I mean, take a look at all of the different Python 3 packages that are out there and available for install. And so that's a great way to search to see, hey, is there a package that exists for something I'm interested in installing? Or, hey, what do they have out there? And so again, apt-cache is a way to do that. Now, you might also be noticing that when I say apt-cache search Python, I'm not having to say sudo apt-cache search Python. Look, and it works just fine. Let's clear the screen here. And if I was to say, sorry, not sudo, what if I was to say apt-get? And what if we wanted to go back and say update? Now remember, I told you, and we saw that we get error messages when we run this command initially, and we get those error messages again. And typically, and let's see if this is going to work for me. I'm just going to go ahead and run it real quick, and then I'm going to run it again without the sudo. Yeah, and it's given us the permission denied. In some instances, and I can't remember where, but I've seen it where it will actually cache the fact that you have run the sudo command for a ballpark 5 minutes, and then you can get away without saying sudo before the command that you want to run. However, always a good practice, because you never know what the response from the system will be, to include sudo there. So you could, again, like I said, you could say sudo apt-cache and search and Python. Whoops. And let's see what we get here. And there we go. And as I already showed, you could just simply say, we'll go back here, apt-cache search Python, and that's going to work just fine. All right, so now let's do this. Remember when I said speedtestdash CLI, it came up and it said, well, here's the command you can do the install with. Well, let's see if we can get away with apt-get install speedtestdash CLI. Now, is this going to work? Let's see if it cached it. And no, we get the permission denied. You need to write down here, are you root? Right? So that should be your clue. Again, always a good practice to throw sudo in here. So we're going to say sudo, and actually we just recall that, do a control A, control A, and say sudo apt-get install speedtest.cli. And so now it's going to go through the process of downloading the package, installing the package, making sure that we've got everything that we need. And now when I clear the screen, if I say speedtest-cli and hit enter, you can see that now it's going to go through. And let's find out if I'm getting my money's worth from Verizon Business Fios here, which is the provider that I use. And pretty good. That's about half of what I'm paying for. And you can see we get the upload speed. So not as pretty as the app that you might get on your iPhone or your Android device, but from the CLI, it's pretty effective. And it does give us the information back that we were looking for, right? Which is, what's my upload speed? What's my download speed? And so we can see those numbers here. All right. So now we know how to refresh the package list. We know what the sources are. We know the file that the sources are listed in. But now what if we want to upgrade? And remember, what did we say with the advanced package tool when we're looking to upgrade, right? We're not resynchronizing when we upgrade. When we upgrade, right, it's used to install the newest version of all packages currently installed. So sudo apt-get upgrade is actually going to upgrade the software. In other words, moving it from version 3.6 to 3.7 or 3.9 to 4.4 or whatever the case may be. And again, you can read about that here. And there again is the Etsy app sources list. And so those are the sources enumerated. That just simply means the sources that are listed. And that's a fancy way of saying listed. So sources listed in that file, those are the sources that are going to be looked at. And remember, it's the uncommented out lines that this command is going to look for. So let's see what that looks like. So we're going to say sudo apt-get upgrade. Oops, sorry, not update, upgrade. All right, I'm going to hit enter, and you can see here, and now it's asking me. So there's still an opportunity here to bail out if I decide, you know what, no, I don't want to do the upgrade. But it did go out and it said, hey, the following packages are going to be upgraded, right? And it lists out the packages that are in that list. Now, it also gives us sort of this other little connective sort of inquiry thing. So we're looking at this command and we see, oh, sudo apt autoremove to remove it. So you could use the sudo apt autoremove command, but we're going to talk about the differences between purge and remove, and we'll also look at autoremove as well. So let's go ahead and say yes. And now it's going to go through and it's going to do the downloading of the packages, right? Now it's doing the upgrading of all the software. And it looks like there were, I haven't updated this in a while, so it looks like there were clearly a few things that needed to be updated. And so now let's go ahead and let this finish up. And by the way, when a quick note, as this is going, it had me thinking, when you do that sudo apt-get install command, right? So we identified that we wanted the speedtest CLI package, and I said sudo apt-get install speedtest-dash CLI. That downloads and installs the latest version of that utility available or on the enumerated sources, right? Those sources that are listed out. And boy, we're done here. And so that's what upgrade looks like, right? And that's how you would go about upgrading something, or should I say upgrading the packages, all the packages. And you notice it's doing them all at one time for us. So we're getting the latest and greatest of everything. So now let's talk about how we remove packages and the difference between remove and purge. And well, to see that, let's say man apt-get, because there are some semantics behind, and there's the install command. And I think it says in here, it actually says in here somewhere that it's going to grab the latest version of the package. Again, you could specify a version if you're looking for a specific version. So here's remove and here's purge. And this is what we're interested in. So remove is identical to install, except that packages are removed instead of installed. And when you look at purge, it says it's identical to remove, except packages are removed and purged. Meaning, if you purge it, all and any configuration files associated with that package are gone. Now, when you look at remove, it leaves the configuration file. So if you're asked, what's the difference? Or which command, sudo apt-get remove or sudo apt-get purge, which command leaves the configuration files for the program behind? Which command removes the configuration files? I should say for the package, it's program package, right? So which one leaves the packet, leaves the configuration files behind, and which one removes those configuration files? So if I wanted to get rid of sudo apt-get, and we're going to say remove speedtest dash CLI, you can see building the dependency tree, reading the state information. The following package was automatically installed and is no longer required, right? So there is a file that was installed, but now it's no longer required. And you can see here this sudo apt autoremove to remove it. Well, let's see what that's going to do. And so you can see it's just going to pull the package out here. Right now, we're going to simply say n for no. Let's say man apt-get. Let's do a / and type in auto and hit enter. And there's that auto remove. And I should have, here, let me do auto remove, do the whole thing to get us down to where we need to be. So auto remove is used to remove packages that were automatically installed to satisfy dependencies for other packages and are no longer needed. So in order to do the cleanup, so let's take a step back here. So I say sudo apt-get remove. We know that remove leaves the configuration files behind. Now, we can also see that this file, this lib llvm10, which was a dependency for speedtest-CLI was also installed. But when we do the remove, which is what we're going to do right now, sudo apt-get remove, and I say yes, does it remove that file? And the answer is no. And let's clear the screen. And actually, we'll leave it here so I can make sure I spell it right. So we'll say sudo apt-get autoremove. And I'll hit enter. And as you can see, autoremove is going out there. And it's sort of, think of it as like a vacuum, or like it's coming and cleaning after the party, right? So the party was the removal. And then you've got all the carnage from the party and all the party favors everywhere. So auto remove is going to come in, and those things that the party was dependent on, right? Like streamers and red beer cups and all that other stuff. That stuff's got to be cleaned up too, right? We just can't leave that on the ground once we get all the party goers out of there. And so auto remove comes in and takes care of that. And we'll do a Y. But we're not done yet, because there's another iteration that we need to take a look at. So let's go ahead and hit clear. And I'm going to say speedtest-dash CLI. And again, remember, there is no such file or directory. So let's reinstall that. So I'm going to say sudo apt-get install speedtest-dash CLI. And you can see here, right, it's going to install it again. And it's like, okay, well, this is cool. We're going to get everything installed. And now we can run speedtest-CLI. Well, let's confirm that it's actually running. And you can see here that it has been installed. Now, the question we need to answer is when we went to remove it, not purge it, when we went to remove it, it left that lib whatever file behind, right? And you can see the speed was a little better there. It left that file behind and said, hey, you could do apt-get auto-remove to get rid of it if you'd like to, right? So let's see what happens if I say sudo apt-get and then purge speedtest-CLI. Now, where is the message here, right? And let's say no. And let's rerun this command and say remove. Right? And we don't see, and actually we're not seeing the message here. Again, we should see that LLVM. Let's abort and let's do the purge. And let's say capital Y, and we should see it. If we're going to see it, we should see it here at the end. You'll notice we never see that lib LLVM0, whatever the name of that file was, which again, is obviously it's further back up here in the buffer, but we don't see anything saying, hey, do you want to clean that up? So what happens if I say sudo apt-get auto remove? There's nothing to be removed. So when we purge, right, and this is the major difference, when you do sudo apt-get remove, yeah, it gets rid of the package you installed, but configuration files and that file that you saw that was a dependency that's not being used by anything else gets left behind with remove. When we do purge, it gets rid of everything, right? Configuration files and all. And so that is a major difference with using purge. All right. So now what we're going to do is let's run through a quick thing here and see what we get if I go into cd etc apt, and if I list it out, right, and you can do a long listing that we've learned about to see what the different permission sets are. And so here's the permission set on this, but you can see the owner is root, the group is root, so the owner and the group members can read and write that file. However, I'm just Travis P. Bonfili, so I fall into this set of permission bits, which means I can read it, which allows me to view the file. But what if I say sudo vi sources.list? And let's come down to, and it's just one in, Canonical. And so here we go. Uncomment the following two lines to add software from Canonical's partner repository. And again, I'm just kind of doing this to see, okay, hey, here is how you could go in uncomment these lines out to add additional sources to your sudo apt-get update, right? So that it's going to be looking at additional sources. Now, how we save the file, I hit escape and then hold shift down and hit Z twice. So shift ZZ. All right, so let's go ahead and see, and I'll get back up into my home directory here. If I say sudo apt-get update, right? Remember, we're not installing anything. What are we doing? We're sort of resynchronizing the packages that are available from the enumerated, the listed sources in that file, that etc apt sources.list file. And take a look here, right? Pretty cool. So you can see we're picking stuff up. Oops, sorry, went a little too far. From Canonical. And you can see right here, we've got that list of packages from Canonical. So now let's go ahead and let's see, again, we haven't installed anything from Canonical, but let's say sudo apt-get upgrade. Run it one last time here. And you can see there's nothing to upgrade because we had already upgraded anything. Now, if I installed something from Canonical, remember, I would get the latest version. It wouldn't be until after the fact, months later or weeks later, whenever the next update were to come out and they were to update what I like to refer to as sort of like the personal package archive for whatever those packages are, the PPA files, that we would get the update, right? When we resynchronize our list from those sources, we would get that information. All right, well, that is going to do it for our tutorial on the advanced package tool, or you'll commonly hear it referred to as apt-get or just simply apt. And we saw that you can use both ways. You've got the man pages to help you. You know the difference between the update and the upgrade command line options. You know the difference between auto remove when it's going to be needed and remove and purge. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. And let me know if you've got any questions. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video.